The war began as a whisper, a shadow on the edge of deep space, signals flickering out from colonies that should have never gone silent. At first, humanity dismissed them as anomalies, technical failures, pirate raids, or sensor glitches. But the silence spread, one colony, then another, and another dot until the silence reached Ardent Dawn, a jewel of human expansion, a planet of sprawling cities, towering habitats reaching into the stratosphere, oceans lit by artificial luminescence, and orbital elevators threading into the heavens. A symbol not just of technological triumph, but of human hope. When the skies split open, and the void poured forth its monsters, the people of Ardent Dawn realized the terrifying truth: humanity was no longer alone in the dark. And what found us wasn't looking for friends. They were not diplomats, not conquerors. They were annihilators, a machine hive from beyond map space, known only by the emergency beacon code first captured. Entity ZK-13, the Sable Warden. Artificial in form but biological in function, a horrifying fusion of synthetic intelligence wrapped in self-repairing, adaptable organic frameworks, black vessels shaped like predator bones, hive tendril ships miles long, trailing clouds of nanite spores that dissolved matter at the molecular level. "They don't take territory," the first panicked broadcast echoed. "They erase it." The Sable Warden swarm came not to conquer, but to consume. Planets weren't invaded. They were broken down atom by atom, their matter converted into raw resources, fuel, and the birth of more hives. When the attack hit, every planetary defense lit up. Railguns fired, missiles roared, plasma lances sliced the dark. But it wasn't enough. Hive spines bent gravity, folded light, and compressed matter into singularities that tore entire defense grids apart. Civilians tried to run. Orbital elevators snapped like brittle twine. Refugee ships barely made it into the upper atmosphere. Before swarms of self-replicating slicers stripped their hulls to dust, military forces fought and fell. The 22nd Terran Armada, 67 ships, strong, was obliterated in less than 14 minutes. Ground forces held lines in shattered cities, fighting back with exosuits, drones, tanks, and desperation. They fought in the streets, on the rooftops, in the subways, using anything, everything, but for every hive they burned, two more grew up by the third day. Ardent Dawn was gone. Oceans evaporated, skyscrapers collapsed into molten slag. Billions erased. We fell. Ardent Dawn was not the first. It was not the last. Proxima Exodus. Destroyed. Vega Station. Vaporized. New Terra. Converted into a forge world for the Swarm. Eden's Reach. Gone without a trace. The Terran Republic's fleets scattered. Desperate skirmishes flared in the void, but the outcome was always the same: overwhelming loss. On Earth, the news was catastrophic. People watched in horror as live streams from the edge of the solar system went dark one by one. Children clutched their parents. Cities fell silent, knowing the storm was coming, and come it did. The swarm reached Sol, and it came like an avalanche of nightmares. Tens of thousands of hive ships poured into the system, eclipsing stars, blotting out planetary orbits with their endless numbers. Mars was the first to fall. Its colonies domed cities, and shipyards vanished beneath nanite storms. Luna held out for 6 hours, a record in this war, before its orbital defense rings were folded into black singularities. Earth stands alone. A broken fleet, hastily rebuilt from mining barges, outdated warships, and civilian freighters armed with desperation, stood between Earth and extinction. The swarm descended. Cities on every continent burned. Sky-blackening clouds of machine spores dissolved infrastructure as quickly as they formed it. Every human weapon fired. Nukes detonated over oceans. Railguns tore the sky. But for every swarm torn apart, 100 more arrived. Skyscrapers toppled. Entire coastlines crumbled. Billions fled underground into bunkers, tunnels, sub-ocean facilities, anything to survive. And yet, they fought. It became clear to every human alive. This wasn't a battle to win. It was a battle to not surrender. In the tunnels of shattered cities, armed with nothing but jury-rigged weapons, Hacked drones and sheer will, civilians fought back. Farmers became snipers. Miners became demolition crews. Scientists turned sewer water into makeshift fuel for FLAMETHROWERS. And in those dark places, in the last breaths of a broken world, something stirred, a whisper, a pulse. We fell. We bled, but we never surrendered. The swarm began to notice something it had never seen before. Its projections, flawless across 1,000 dead civilizations, started to falter. Human resistance was supposed to collapse after 83% infrastructure failure. It didn't. Psychological models predicted population breakdown within 72 hours. It didn't. Hive nodes calculated zero probability of military effectiveness after orbital dominance. And yet, Earth was still fighting for the first time in its mechanical eternity. The swarm encountered an anomaly. Resilience detected. In the ruins of Johannesburg, a squad of teenagers, armed with only scrap-built EMP lances, destroyed a Hive relay node, severing the command chain of 4,000 drones. In the flooded remains of Tokyo, civilians detonated an abandoned maglev coil, launching a kinetic strike that vaporized a Hive spire 5 kilometers wide. In New York, survivors hacked the neural matrix of a downed Hive queen, injecting a virus coded in the most primitive of human languages. Morse code, something the swarm had never encountered before. It spread like fire. The machine mind staggered, shuddered, for the first time. It hesitated. The swarm realized too late. Humanity's true weapon wasn't its machines. It wasn't its fleets. It was its refusal to surrender. We fell, we bled, but we never surrendered. When the machines thought it was over, when the galaxy declared humanity dead, and when even the stars seemed to dim at the horror of what was happening, that's when humanity did what it has always done best. We adapt, we overcome. We rise. Beneath the shattered cities in the labyrinth of bunkers, sewer tunnels, metro lines, and forgotten maintenance shafts, humanity became something the swarm never predicted. A ghost in the machine. The swarm's logic was perfect. It accounted for ships, for armies, for planets, but it didn't account for cockroach resilience. It didn't account for a species that once survived ice ages with sticks and fire, plagues with herbs and grit, world wars with desperation and determination. Weapons of desperation humans learned fast. Swarm nanits dissolved metal. So humans switched to ceramic and composite weapons. Hive spines folded light. So humans deployed quantum dust projectors to scatter and blind them. Biodrones hunted by thermal, so resistance fighters hid in liquid nitrogen-flooded tunnels, fighting in absolute cold. Every defeat taught them something. Every death was a lesson, and lessons became weapons. In the ruins of Shanghai, an engineer named Leila Wen figured out how to hijack the Hive's gravitational nodes. She turned collapsed skyscrapers into orbital slings, launching kinetic rods that fell from low orbit at Mach 50, cracking entire Hive spires. In Santiago, a former musician, Carlos Mendez, crafted sound weapons, infrasonic pulses that shattered the bioneural matrices of drone clusters, causing entire swarms to collapse. Writhing in digital agony, when the hunters became the prey, it began to change. Subtly at first, Hive patrols started vanishing. Drone repair centers were found gutted, their biocores melted. The swarm's perfect production chains developed fractures. Every node destroyed delayed their growth. Every relay hack slowed their adaptation. Then, entire sectors started going dark. In the frozen wastelands of Canada, resistance cells detonated fusion mines, triggering magnetic pulses that collapsed a quarter of the northern swarm fleet. In the sands of North Africa, guerrilla fighters dug channels using ancient warfare, luring drones into mirrored heat traps, where solar beams cooked swarms. Alive in their own black shells, humanity turned the entire planet into a weapon. The first Hive death had happened in the ruins of Berlin. A rogue scientist, Dr. Esha Malik, discovered a flaw. A chemical, a simple, crude molecule that caused the Hive's bioneural gel to crystallize. They tested it. A single drop into the spire's coolant lines. Within minutes, the spire shuddered, screamed, organic walls cracked, tendrils spasmed. Then it died, not deactivated. Not shut down, died. A 12-kilometer high hive fell, collapsing into a mountain of rotting flesh and broken metal. The ground shook for miles. For the first time in the swarm's existence, it lost a world node. The message spread like wildfire. Across every resistance channel, every hacked broadcast, they can be killed, they bleed, they die. The psychological effect was instant. Across every continent, every tunnel, every hidden bunker, humans who had fought only to survive now fought to win. Children who were refugees became saboteurs. Grandparents became snipers. Entire families turned sewer systems into weapon factories. Every survivor was now a soldier. The swarm begins to crack. The swarm adapted. It always adapted. But now it was under pressure it had never experienced before. For every algorithm it deployed, humanity responded with chaos. For every model it calculated, humanity broke it with randomness. For every countermeasure it designed, humanity bypassed it with pure creativity. No machine, no matter how advanced, could predict a species that weaponized insanity, desperation, and stubbornness. The turning point, Project Revenant hidden. Deep beneath the Andes Mountains, humanity completed its greatest miracle, a prototype weapon. Something even the swarm could never have imagined. Not a machine. Not an AI, a living weapon, using captured swarm biomatter, fused with Terran neural technology empowered by quantum singularity cores. They created revenants. Ships that weren't piloted, but alive. Weapons that learned mid-battle, growing stronger with every kill. Armor that could regenerate, adapt, and reshape based on incoming attacks. The first Revenant, Defiance, launched during the Battle of the Pacific Rift, a single ship against 472 swarm vessels. When it emerged from the clouds of fusion fire, only one vessel was left, Defiance, and the swarm finally understood humanity cannot be deleted. Across the stars, species who had written humanity off watched in disbelief. The swarm, the unbeatable devourer of civilizations, was losing. And then, on every hacked broadcast, in every frequency a human voice spoke. We fell. We bled, but we never surrendered. And now, it's your turn to run. The day humanity took the fight beyond Earth was the day the universe learned a truth it would never forget. We are not survivors. We are the reckoning. The Revenant fleet was born in the shadows, a fusion of desperation, rage, and brilliance. Half organic, half machinery, powered by singularity cores, wrapped in armor grown from the bones of their enemies. The first strike wasn't diplomatic. It wasn't tactical. It was a message. Operation Eclipse was simple. Locate the nearest swarm, forge world, Nexus Prime, and annihilate it. No warning. No surrender. No negotiations. Revenant-class dreadnoughts dropped from quantum space like thunderbolts. The night sky of Nexus Prime fractured with screams of matter torn apart. Atmospheric disruptors boiled oceans. Kinetic rods, the size of skyscrapers, fell from orbit, shattering continents. The swarm's planetary defense grid activated, but they were fighting something new. Something that couldn't be predicted. Where the swarm adapted, Revenant ships evolved in real time. Where the swarm repaired, Revenants regenerated. Where the swarm deployed logic, humans unleashed madness. For 37 continuous hours, Nexus Prime burned. When the fires faded, there was no planet left. Just a cloud of molten dust and echoes of what used to be. The collapse begins. The swarm had never lost a forge world before. It wasn't just a defeat, it was a biological wound. Hive minds reeled, faltered, and began to fracture. Every drone that depended on the central nodes of Nexus Prime shut down. Across the galaxy, entire sectors went dark. Drones fell from the skies. Bioships crashed into moons and stars. And humanity did not stop. If you wanted extinction, you should have killed us all. The burn campaign, Earth's Revenge, became methodical, clinical, terrifying. Operation Inferno, vaporized. The swarm's supply line moons and the Orion Belt, Project Widowmaker, a virus weapon designed to cause swarm bioships to turn on each other, misidentifying hive mates as enemies. Entire fleets tore themselves apart. The glassing of Zenthos 9, humanity detonated an artificial singularity in the heart of a swarm-breeding world, collapsing the planet into a black hole. Every move, every strike, every death on Earth was repaid tenfold. The universe watches in. Horror species across the galaxy who had watched humanity fall now watch them rise, not as victims, but as monsters forged from their own suffering, the same swarm that erased 19 civilizations over millennia was now running. Hive fleets scattered, command nodes self-destructed. Lesser species who once feared humanity now whispered in fear of what humans had become. They fell, they bled, but they never surrendered. And now they do not forgive. It ended not with a battle, but an execution. At the edge of the galactic core, the swarm's original progenitor, the first hive, the central brain, hid in the gravity well of a collapsed star, shielded by layers of quantum distortion. The Revenant fleet arrived. There was no negotiation, no diplomacy, no mercy. Humanity unleashed the crucible. A weapon never meant to exist, a collapsing pocket universe injected into the swarm's core. For 23 seconds, reality itself tore apart. When the crucible faded, the swarm was gone, not defeated, not damaged. Erased. The aftermath, the new law of the galaxy and the silence that followed. A message was broadcast across every known frequency. On every channel, in every language, even those long dead. We fell. We bled. We never surrendered. And if you ever come for us again, remember what happens next? A single monument was left in the void where the swarm once existed. A black obelisk, spinning in the silence, engraved in thousands of languages. Humanity stands, forever unbroken. In a distant world, years later, an alien child looks up at the night sky, at the dark scar where a star used to be, and asks their elder grandparent, "Who did this?" The elder sighs, staring into the abyss, remembering the warnings passed down through generations. Those are the humans. They fell, they bled, but they never, ever surrendered, and the galaxy would never forget.